Welcome back to the workshop, everybody. So glad you could be with me here today. Walter here at the portable planer. So I'm just about done using this, and I thought I'd go over some observations. I'm not going to try to tell you how to do any major repairs or tune-ups or anything, but there are a few observations. All right. First, if you are fortunate enough to have the manual, there is a lot of great stuff in the manual. So, the problem with manuals from time to time is not so much being able to read them, it's being able to understand them. So, if you can understand your manual, you're in great shape. But my most favorite part of the manual is always the parts explosions, okay? If you need a part, or you want to know where there's a part to clean, or how it's connected, that's how you find out. So, not going to get into a lot of safety stuff, but we did talk about these guys, safety glasses, and we did talk about some sort of hearing protection, earplugs or earmuffs. But when you're working on your machine, and for many hand tool users, you may not always think about this, but when you're dealing with these pigtailed apprentices, unplug them. Enough said about that. So, a little bit about how these planers work. And some of this may be obvious and some of it may not. All right? Basically, you've got that round shaft in the middle. That's your cutter head. It's mounted to a belt. The belt is mounted to a motor and it turns. In that cutter head are two knives. Those two knives, you keep them sharp, you keep them clean. And you make sure they're set properly. On this particular machine, you need to use some sort of a setting gauge. Okay? This happens to be a plastic magnetic one that these four magnets will go onto the round section of the cutter head, and that one magnet will catch the blade itself, the knife, and this little plastic pin registers up against another section. So these allow you to get the knives, there's two of them, a left and a right, or right and a left and a right, you know what I mean. These allow you to get that knife parallel and set at the proper height to the cutter head. All right, enough said about that. I will touch base on that one more time before we're done because there's a reason. There's two feed rollers. There's an in-feed roller underneath here and an out-feed roller. Those rollers, you need to keep them clean. I typically will use naphtha. If I don't have naphtha, I will use mineral spirits. Worst case scenario, I will use turpentine to get pine pitch off. But then I'll turn around and clean it again with mineral spirits or naphtha, maybe even alcohol. But I never ever use acetone or lacquer thinner. Those are too volatile, and I'm not sure if they will affect the rubber. Contact your manufacturer. So, the first feed roller grabs the wood, pushes it into the cutter head cuts some, sets it to the second feed roller brings it the rest of the way out. All right, plain and simple. During that time, it creates chips and dust. Originally, most of these machines had a dust hood like this, okay? And this dust hood would just deflect the chips down onto the wood that you're planing, and they would carry it away and then fall to the floor. That works perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Where you run into trouble with this is if you're working in a closed environment. The dust will build up, all right, the fine dust, especially as the blades dull, or if you're working with a particularly dusty wood. So, most of us will be working with these in a garage where we can open up a door, put a fan out in front of you, put a fan behind you, and keep the air moving out. And everything else that falls to the floor, that's fine. Don't worry about it. You shovel it up, sweep it up later. With the advent, see now, I'm dating myself, but with the advent of home dust collection, the machines to do dust extraction years ago only became available at an affordable price much later than some of the tools did. Like for instance, when Rockwell and Delta were putting out millions of machines, they didn't consider dust extraction. They wanted the dust to deposit on the floor, right? Down there where you would sweep it up. So with the advent of affordable dust extraction, I'm going to be switching the words into extraction, and I'll explain that in a second. We got these newer aftermarket hoods, and you would have a 4-inch hose that you would connect to it, and that would go to a blower, which would then send the dust into a containment vessel. That vessel could be a drum, it could be a bag, and if you look at any dust collector, what they call a collector, it never collects the dust. It just extracts the dust from the machine, dumps it in the bags, and then leaks all over the place, and you still have fine dust all over the place. In all my years, I must have had 6 different dust collectors. One was $2,000, and it did not collect all the dust. All right, so that's why I don't like using the term dust collector. It is more of an extractor. All right, so I don't have a dust extractor with a large blower. All I have is a shop vac. All right. But I do have a dust deputy that separates out the finer dust before it can get to my vacuum, which has a HEPA filter bag in there. So I'm in pretty good shape. So I use the shop vac. Okay. I got to put my geek on here because this is where I used to earn a living. I used to earn a living designing heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems for a process facility, a chemical facility. Shop vacs can only move so much air. Yes, they move it at a higher static pressure. They have higher suction. 4 inches into 2 inches. It's not half. Okay? If you do the math, it's almost 4 times. So if I have a 4-inch hose with twice the air movement, I'm going to move those chips out of there faster. And if I move the chips out of there faster, my cuts are going to be cleaner. The containment of the dust is going to be more complete. But all I have is a shop vac, so I have to be just a little careful in how much of a cut that I take and how wide the boards are so I don't clog this. That's what will happen. These will get clogged up if you can't move enough air. And that's why a square corner here like this, This is a dead zone from here to here. This might as well not be here. This needs to be curved. But it's an aftermarket dust hood, and it's fine. It works. It works. But when you take this off, there's sawdust in this corner. Okay. So, the dust hood will work. Just blow the dust outdoors, or work maybe on a concrete patio. Work outdoors and let the fine dust just blow away. Now, we've talked about keeping your knife sharp, keeping the cutter head clean, keeping the feed rollers clean, dust extraction, manual, and safety, keeping it unplugged. What's curious about these small machines is there's not a lot of adjustment. There is no adjustment for the vertical movement of the head. I cannot adjust it left or right. I cannot adjust the tension on the feed rollers. I can't adjust the angle of the feed rollers. On big planers, you can. You have adjustments like that. It's not good to mess around with it if the machine is working, but once you have your machine working, you rarely ever have to do it again. And there's no adjusting the table. The table is set. So the only adjustment that we do have is the cutter itself, the knife. You get that in and you make sure you got that in properly so your feed rollers are engaging properly and that it is giving you a more or less parallel cut left to right. Now, where we do have adjustment to help with snipe is here. There's a bolt here and a bolt here with a nut on it, a lock nut. If anything I say in this whole video saves you any time, it's going to be this. You want these feed rollers to engage with your wood as it comes out. So if anything, you want this higher than the table. I'll repeat that. If at all possible, these rollers should be higher than your table. Fixed table, adjustable out feed wing. Same with the in feed wing. Okay? I don't know if you can see it. Same with this one. Here's why. As the wood is coming across the table, let me see if I put my hand through this way without, okay? It's being pressed down to the table by the feed rollers, okay? As it comes out, if it hits that, you see how it caught that? See that? It's not much. Could be a 64th, could be a 32nd, could be maybe as much as a 16th. You have to test it. You have to adjust it from side to side. Check the middle. All right? What that does is you've got your pressure here. Okay? I don't know if you can see my hand. You got your pressure coming down from the feed roller, and you're coming out, and you got this pushing up. It's keeping everything engaged so that when you come out, see that roller's rolling. It's keeping it engaged so you don't get that snipe at the end. And the same thing on the in-feed side. So, read your manual. Ask for customer support if you need it. But it should be raised up slightly. You have to figure out how much. I can't tell you exactly how much. I did find I was getting much superior cuts after I raised these up a little bit. And they will move. The heavier the wood you're putting through here, these are pressed steel. These are hollow. You know, they will move. So, that's one thing. Another way is, let's say most of your work is 2, 3, 4 foot long. Get yourself a 4-foot melamine shelf from a big box store. 1 by 12. It's basically a 3/4 inch piece of particle board with melamine on either side, the plastic. And sight down it. And the side that's where the wings are up, have that come out this way, and the other one out the other way, and you center it in your planer, and you put stop blocks underneath to prevent it from sliding back and forth. Okay? I hope you understand what I'm saying. You put some sort of a cleat. You put some sort of a cleat underneath here, screwed to the melamine. That will give you a longer, flat bed by which you can put your wood across. That will help. Not perfect, but that will help. So, whew, those are my observations. But I would say of all of the things that I really think are the most important, for me, it's the hearing protection. These little guys are noisy. The motors themselves whine. The heads, when they're pounding the cutters through the wood, the pounding is noisy. The duller the blades get, the noisier they get. So with a sharp cutter, it's not so bad. But when they start to dull, you'll know it. You'll know. Well, I hope you found something useful, helpful, maybe entertaining. If you did, give it the old thumbs up. And I'm so glad you could join us here today. Hope you're subscribed. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. We welcome you. We'll get into some more trouble here at the workshop. But as always, the most important thing is for you to go out to your shop and go make some shavings. Walter out.